we doing today? Today we're going to talk about the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. I prefer to call it the Affordable Care Act because I feel like to call it the Obamacare is to give some level of disrespect to our government in the United States of America. It was brought, it was voted on, and most importantly, it was passed. Let's move on. What is the Affordable Care Act? The Affordable Care Act is somewhat of kind of like insurance reform. It is the definition of it, or getting to the point of it, it is a program that is supposed to offer you and your family many new benefits, rights, and protections on all plans. Health plans that started after 2010, before 2010, may not have done this. However, in 2014, they are pretty much being forced to cross over. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons. One of the pros is that now you can shop for health insurance in an open marketplace. And by doing this, you have many options, and you can compare and contrast different things where health insurance is involved. There was a time in our past, where you really didn't have many options. Your job said this is what you had to do, and that's what you signed up for, and you figured out a way to live with it. Another thing is that they can no longer deny people for pre-existing conditions. I know a lot of us that does not apply to. We don't understand quite what it is. A pre-existing condition is something that can affect a child or an adult or a senior citizen or anybody. I give you an example. A friend of mine has a child that has asthma. Because of her daughter's pre-existing condition, her insurance is always extremely high. And one year in particular with the company that she worked with, they denied her insurance. She gathered over $40,000 in hospital bills because her daughter caught pneumonia. I don't think that's fair at all. You no longer do that. A story about myself is I filled an application for insurance incorrectly, and I was denied it because I put the wrong term in the wrong place, and this, that, and all this other stuff, this, that, and the third, and I ended up with no health insurance for a year. Well, you can no longer do that. It has been proven that sometimes insurance companies offer tricky applications just to catch you in situations like that. Another thing is that all companies are held responsible for offering some form of health insurance. Well, you also need to take into consideration that you no longer will be given limitations on your insurance. Some plans offer timelines, guidelines, and everything that make it almost impossible to reap the benefits of paying for it in the first place. Now, you've also heard a lot of negative about it. You've heard that because of the Obamacare, taxes have went up. You've heard that because of this new act that there will become a time when you won't be able to get insurance. All of that is not necessarily true. The things that are the cons, I think, are the things that we have to take into consideration are going to always be pros and cons living in a democracy. There's never been a plan that has come across the table that everyone benefited from. Yes, if you make over $100,000 a year, you are starting to get taxed a little higher. Yes, if you are a small business owner, or if you are a part of a corporation that is big, there will be some financial repercussions. But as a whole, we've opened up the door to the problem of providing insurance to each and every American. Let's not forget, that was not always Medicare or Medicaid. These things were presented to us as early as 1945 by Truman, a very respected and educated and influential in American history president. However, it wasn't until 1965 when LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, finally found a way to pass Medicare. Do you realize that since then Medicare has helped out the elderly all over this country? It has kept us from watching our grandparents, aunts, uncles, and community members from dying early. Eventually, we passed Medicaid, not too long after. And if you know anything about Medicaid, Medicaid is an amazing tool for children, and in some cases, for people that are suffering from some form of mental or physical disability. And can you believe that when our country was at its worst time financially in the 40s and 60s and times in between, we had to cough up millions of dollars to figure out a way to offer our citizens better insurance. Now, I'm not saying Obamacare is the way. The Affordable Care Act is the way. I'm not saying it's the answer. But what I am saying is that there's a question. How can we provide better health insurance? So we need some form of answer. And I'm glad that our president has given us some form of answer. Thank you.